talked about how the rainbow washes the air, deodorizes, sanitizes, aromatizes, and does all those great things for the air. All right, so let's move on. Using traditional tools and methods to eliminate dust, household dust, is ineffective. What do we mean? You're not eliminating dust, you're just moving it around, okay? So you see, I could take the rainbow and I could clean the air and I could maintain the air quality, but when I come back behind it and clean the way that I clean, whether it be with a vacuum or whether it be with a broom, sweep, or whatever, it's kind of counterproductive. I'm cleaning the air, well then I'm polluting the air. What do I mean? Well, let's take a look at your vacuum. All right? Okay, so you guys have here, all right, the Eureka. Fantastic. All right, so, and guys, it wouldn't have mattered if you'd have gotten the Eureka, the Kirby, the Bissell. It really wouldn't have mattered because ultimately, all dry vacuums have 4 basic parts that make them work, all right? They have an exhaust, they have an intake, they have a motor, and a filter. They have an exhaust, they have an intake, they have a motor, and they have a filter. Fact, many vacuum cleaners actually contribute to unhealthy living conditions. Fine particles are able to pass through the pores of a vacuum cleaner bag or filter, all right, and blow back out to our air. Bacteria thrive and multiply in warm, dark, filthy places, and bacteria are often the source of odors. I always tell people this, when you walk into a home, Miss Jones, what's usually your first indication that someone just vacuumed? Well, maybe the lines, but as far as the smell goes, we can smell. We know somebody just vacuumed, and it's not a vacuum, it's not a pleasant smell. A lot of people say, oh, it smells like my dog. Well, no, it wouldn't, because you get rid of your dog, right? It's a nasty bacteria that just sits inside our vacuum, and everything we breathe and every bit of the air that we pump back into our home is filtered right through it, right? These are just notes from Alfred Zam, leading allergist. Don't use dusters, mops, brooms. They scatter dust, right? If it's dry, it's going to fly. And certainly no commercial dust and oils or others being produced in preparations. And that just goes back to earlier, the plugins, things like that. Most vacuum cleaners pollute more than they clean. They suck in dust from surfaces, and then they blow the smaller particles through the filter or the bag back out to the air, okay? Particles that, because of their small nature, because our lungs are wet, guess what? They're going to stick right to our lungs, okay? So, vacuum cleaners scatter dust and dirt. Now, we take your machine here. I always like to do this, kind of tell you, but then I want to show you. All right, so, this is your machine here, all right? And I take this really quick, and I always, Miss Jones, if you would, I want you to smell that, all right? And I want you to tell me, is it healthy or is it unhealthy? Well, it's unhealthy, right? And you see, Miss Jones, everything that we breathe inside of our home, our children, our parents, whoever, everything we breathe inside of our home is filtered right through this nasty filter, okay? Now I'll take it a step even further, okay? And I look at stuff like this, right? You can see it, okay? Now you could imagine, I'm just barely tapping on it, how much air is blowing through this machine when I turn it on, right? We're literally filtering air back into our homes that's filtered right through this nasty machine, all right? Now, crazy question, but I'll ask you. You wouldn't take this and dump water through it and let it filter into your cup and drink it. You say, no, that's crazy. But I can tell you this, that's a whole lot better for us than breathing it in all the time and pumping this stuff back into our house. You see, we could drink it, might get a little tummy ache, but we're going to flush it right through. This stuff right here is the reason we have allergies, the reason that we have sickness, the reason we have all the things we have, because we got nasty stuff blowing back into our home. Miss Jones, I always use this as an example. We don't go into restaurants and see people vacuuming, right? Well, no, definitely not. Why? Because it's a health code issue. If I'm vacuuming and I'm picking up dust and I'm blowing dust back out while somebody's eating, I've got a problem. So, real simple, I say, well, let me tell you, if I'm not using it in a restaurant, why in the world would I use something like this inside of my home? Okay? So, vacuum cleaners scatter dust and dirt. All right? And going back to earlier, I said, what does that smell like? Healthy or unhealthy? Well, it smells unhealthy, and it's real simple. Bacteria, nasty stuff, sits in this thing, and it just sits there. It grows, and it grows, and it grows. And guess what? Every week or so, we pull it out of the closet, and we just start pumping air through it, okay? So anyhow, that's how our vacuum works. With a filter, I've got holes in it. And now I might have 100 holes. I've probably got 200 or 300 holes, right? They're all the same size, okay? They're not going to be different size. And it's real simple, Mr. Jones. what is all that air? And I just showed you, but just to kind of bring it all together, what are all those dust particles doing to those filters? Real easy. If I got a hole this big and I got dirt and dust this big, well, guess what? It's going right through the filter. All right? Do's and don'ts, we call it. All right? Real quick, I transition, an easy transition. I want them to know, hey, I can run this purifier all day long. I can run it on high, low, doesn't matter. I can clean the air, but if I'm coming back behind it and using a vacuum or a broom, I'm doing nothing. I'm wasting my time, right? Time and energy, all right? So notice I went through my book here. I always like to say, tell me, but then make sure you show me. So I want to tell them, hey, all dry vacuums have these parts, right? Vacuum cleaner school, because a lot of people don't realize what's in a vacuum. But if we explain to them, it don't matter if it's a $5,000 Kirby or a Bissell or a $1,000 Dyson. They're all the same. Intake, motor, filter, exhaust. They're all the same, okay? So I want to roll through some of these. Maybe a little facts, a few little visuals, okay? But here's where it gets good, all right? I got to make sure that I get their vacuum. They say, oh, it's in the closet. Nah, we'll get it later. Nope, we got to have their vacuum. How do we kill their vacuum if we ain't got it? We got to have it, okay? When they bring their vacuum out, if I look down like you can see the vacuum I just had there, it's a little different than most vacuums. So of course we've got uprights we can train with or whatever. But know this, we don't have to be nasty dry vacuum experts. Don't worry if they bring out a vacuum you've never seen. Ask them to take the filter apart. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what we're trying to get across is their machine is nasty and polluting their house. Okay? So let's just drive that point across. If you can take it apart, go for it. If you got to fumble through it and you're worried if you take it apart you're going to dump it, let them do it, okay? Again, we're just trying to get across the point that it's nasty, all right? Notice what I did here. I took it apart, I scrubbed the light on it, or I've knocked the light on it. I want them to see dust. We talked about earlier, light show, light show, light show, all right? The more we use it, the better. The more light we use, the more pollution we can show. Also, I put it in their face, all right? Don't be, I've never had a situation, ever, Haley, nobody's ever had a situation where we put a vacuum in somebody's face and they were like, oh, get that out of my face. Why would they? They smell it every day, but I want to put it in their face and I want to make them tell me, is this healthy or is it unhealthy? Simple, all right? I want them to smell it. A lot of times they're like, oh, it smells like my dog. No, it doesn't smell like your dog. You get rid of your dog. It smells like nasty bacteria and all this filthy stuff you've drug in their house. And I want to make sure I get that point across. Whether it's putting it in their face, making them sniff it, knocking the dust, whatever it is, that's what I've got to do, okay? So don't be afraid to do that, all right? Again, use lamp. The point I'm trying to get across to the customer through all the things that I'm doing here, putting in their face, telling them it pollutes, doing all those things, I've got to get across the point that if it's got a hole in it, dust and dirt ain't the same size of that hole. That machine wasn't designed with all different dust particles, all different sizes in mind. I got to get across the point to that customer that if I got a hole this big and I got dirt and dust particles going this big, if I got dust and dirt particles this big, it's going through the filter. It's real simple, all right? Good luck.